The designer kitchen that cost me $43,000 looked like a crime scene at 2 in the morning. Not blood and gore, just the aftermath of another one of Talia's creative dinner parties, where she'd invited half the neighborhood to admire her latest decorating triumph, while treating me like the hired help. I stood there in my boxers and an old Yankees t-shirt, loading our ridiculously expensive dishwasher with plates that still had remnants of whatever pretentious appetizer she'd served. Truffle something or other, probably. Everything was truffle this and artisanal that with Talia these days. Jordan Wells, 41 years old, owner of a commercial cleaning company that actually made decent money, reduced to midnight kitchen duty in his own house. The irony wasn't lost on me. I spent my days making other people's messes disappear, and here I was cleaning up after my wife's social climbing adventures. "Oh, you're still up." Talia's voice cut through the quiet like a rusty blade. She stood in the doorway, still wearing that black cocktail dress that probably cost more than most people's monthly rent. Her blonde hair was perfectly styled despite the late hour, and she held her phone like it was surgically attached to her hand. "Someone's got to clean this up," I said, not looking at her. "Unless you were planning to leave it for the cleaning fairy?" She snorted. Actually snorted. Like I'd said something amusing. "Jordan, I've been thinking about divorce for a long time. I'm tired of you." The plate I was holding slipped from my hands and clattered into the sink. Not broke. These were the good plates. The ones that could apparently survive nuclear war, but not my wife's casual brutality. I turned around slowly. "Excuse me?" "You heard me." She was texting while she talked, not even bothering to make eye contact. "I've outgrown this marriage. We want different things. I want to live, and you want to, I don't know, clean things. I want to clean things." I repeated her words, tasting the contempt in them. Right, because wanting to build something stable and secure is such a character flaw. "Don't be dramatic." She finally looked up from her phone, and I saw something in her eyes I'd never seen before. Not just indifference, active disgust. We both know this hasn't been working for years. I'm just finally saying it out loud. "Years?" My voice came out steadier than I felt. "When exactly did you decide our marriage was over? Before or after I paid for your studio renovation? Before or after I co-signed on your new BMW? See? This is exactly what I'm talking about." She waved her hand dismissively. "Everything's about money with you. About keeping score. I need someone who understands that life is about more than balance sheets and profit margins. Someone like who?" The question hung in the air between us. For just a second, her perfect composure slipped, and I saw something flicker across her face. Guilt? Fear? Then it was gone, replaced by that cold smile she'd perfected for her clients. "Someone who gets me. Someone who appreciates what I bring to the table." "And what exactly do you bring to the table, Talia? Besides expensive taste and a talent for spending my money?" "Your money." Her voice went up an octave. "Our money. Everything we have, we built together." "Did we?" "Because I seem to remember working 16-hour days to build my business while you were finding yourself through various expensive hobbies. Interior design, yoga instructor, that pottery phase that lasted 3 weeks. God, you're such a small-minded little man." She shook her head like she was disappointed in a particularly slow child. "No wonder I've been thinking about this for so long." She turned to leave, then paused in the doorway. "Oh, and Jordan? Don't wait up. I'm going out." "At 2 in the morning? I'm a grown woman. I don't need permission." And with that, she was gone. I heard her heels clicking across the hardwood floors, heard the front door open and close, heard her BMW purr to life in the driveway. I stood there in my $43,000 kitchen, surrounded by dirty dishes and the wreckage of my marriage, and felt something cold settle in my chest. Not heartbreak. I'd been expecting that shoe to drop for months. This was something else, something calculating. Talia thought she knew me, thought I was just some small-minded little man who cleaned things for a living. She had no idea what was coming. Neither did I, to be honest. But I had a feeling it was going to get messy. The next morning, Talia acted like nothing had happened. She breezed into the kitchen at 8:30, poured herself coffee from the machine I'd already programmed, and started scrolling through her phone like she hadn't just blown up our marriage 12 hours earlier. Morning, she said without looking up. Not morning. I was reading the newspaper, the actual paper version, which she always said made me look old. Today, I didn't care. Sleep well? Fine. Still not looking up. I have 3 client meetings today, then drinks with Renee. Don't wait up. Wouldn't dream of it. She finally glanced at me, probably wondering if I was being sarcastic. I kept my expression neutral. After 18 years of marriage, I'd learned to hide my thoughts when necessary. Good. She grabbed her purse, a $2,000 handbag that I'd bought her for our anniversary. Oh, and I'm thinking of taking that weekend trip to the Hamptons with the girls, the one I mentioned. She hadn't mentioned any trip. This was the first I was hearing about it. Sounds fun, I said. How much fun are we talking about? What's that supposed to mean? Nothing. Just wondering about the budget. You know me, always thinking about money. She rolled her eyes. It's not that expensive. Renee's friend has a house out there. We're just splitting gas and groceries. Right. Renee's friend. Renee, who'd been divorced 3 times and treated marriage like a hobby she'd grown tired of. Renee, who'd been filling Talia's head with stories about finding herself and living authentically. Have fun, I said. After she left, I sat in my kitchen for a long time thinking. Then I called my office and told my assistant, Beth, that I'd be in late. I had some research to do. I started in our home office, the room Talia had redecorated last year with a $14,000 desk that she used mainly for online shopping. I went through our financial records, credit card statements, bank accounts, everything we'd built together over 18 years. What I found was interesting and infuriating. 3 credit cards I didn't know about. A storage unit rental that had been automatically charging our joint account for 6 months. Cash withdrawals that didn't match any expenses I could identify. Hotel charges in the city on days when she'd supposedly been working late at her studio. I made copies of everything. Day 2, I followed her. Not proud of it, but desperate times and all that. I told Beth I was scouting new commercial accounts and spent the afternoon tracking my wife around town. Her first stop wasn't a client meeting. It was a boutique in the expensive part of town, where she spent 2 hours trying on clothes that cost more than most people's monthly salary. She bought 3 outfits, paid with one of those mystery credit cards. Her second stop was a salon. Hair, nails, the works. Another $300. Her third stop was interesting. A real estate office downtown. She spent an hour inside, and when she came out, she was with a man I didn't recognize. Tall, expensive suit, the kind of artificially white smile that screamed, "I sell things to people who can't afford them." They stood on the sidewalk, talking for 20 minutes. He touched her arm twice. She laughed at something he said, the real laugh, not the fake one she used with clients. Then, they got in his car together. I followed them to a restaurant I couldn't afford on my best day. The kind of place where they don't put prices on the menu, because, if you have to ask, you can't afford it. I parked across the street and watched them through the window. They sat close together, very close. He ordered wine that probably cost more than I made in a day. She kept touching his hand across the table. This wasn't a business meeting. Day 3, I made some calls. My lawyer first, just to get some information about divorce law in our state. Then my accountant, to understand exactly what we owned and who owned what. The conversations were educational. That evening, Talia came home late again. She'd been doing that a lot lately. I just hadn't been paying attention. She found me in the living room, reading. "You're up late," she said. "Couldn't sleep. Funny thing happened today." "Oh." I got a call from American Express. Seems there's some unusual activity on one of our accounts. Charges I didn't recognize. She went very still. "What kind of charges?" "Oh, you know, restaurants, hotels, shopping. The kind of charges someone might make if they were living a whole separate life." "I don't know what you're talking about." "Don't you?" I closed my book and looked at her. Really looked at her. When had she gotten so good at lying? Because I'm thinking maybe we should sit down and go through our finances together. You know, like married couples do. That's not necessary. I handle my own expenses. With my money. Our money, Jordan. How many times do I have to tell you that? Right. Our money. So, you won't mind explaining where it's all going? She stared at me for a long moment, and I could see her calculating, trying to figure out how much I knew, how much I suspected. I'm tired, she said finally. Can we do this another time? Sure, how about tomorrow? I'll clear my schedule. I'm busy tomorrow. I'm sure you are. She went upstairs without another word. I heard her on the phone a few minutes later, speaking in low, urgent tones, probably calling her real estate friend, or Renee, or whoever else was helping her plan my destruction. I sat in my living room until 3 in the morning, making lists, assets, debts, evidence, options. By the time I went to bed, I had a plan. Talia thought she was so clever, thought she was playing chess while I was playing checkers. She was about to learn that I'd been playing chess all along. I'd just been letting her think she was winning. The next morning, I woke up before dawn and drove to my office. Wells Commercial Cleaning occupied a modest building in an industrial part of town. Nothing fancy, but it was mine. I'd built it from nothing, starting with a used van and a dream of being my own boss. Now it employed 37 people and cleaned everything from office buildings to medical facilities. We weren't getting rich, but we were comfortable. Or I thought we were, until I started adding up Talia's secret expenses. I spread all the financial documents across my desk like pieces of a puzzle. Credit card statements, bank records, receipts I'd found hidden in her car. The picture they painted wasn't pretty. My wife had been living a double life for at least 8 months, maybe longer. The storage unit rental, the secret credit cards, the cash withdrawals, it all pointed to someone planning an exit strategy. Someone who'd been preparing to leave while pretending everything was fine. The hotel charges were particularly interesting. Always the same place, the Meridian downtown. Always charged to a card I'd never seen before. I called the hotel, pretending to be following up on corporate bookings. Oh, yes, Mrs. Wells, the desk clerk said. She's one of our regular guests. Always books the same suite. Would you like me to connect you to her usual room? That won't be necessary. Can you tell me how long she's been a regular guest? Let me check. Looks like her first stay was in March. She's been coming in about twice a week since then. March. 8 months ago. Right around the time she started talking about finding herself and growing as a person. I thanked the clerk and hung up. Then I called my lawyer. Tom, it's Jordan Wells. Remember that conversation we had yesterday? I think I'm going to need more than just information. Tom Bradley had been handling legal issues for my business for 5 years. He was straightforward, competent, and didn't waste time on pleasantries. What's the situation? I laid it out for him. The secret accounts, the hotel stays, the mysterious real estate meetings, the divorce threat that wasn't really a threat, more like an announcement of plans already in motion. How long have you been married? 18 years? Any prenup? No. But we did sign a post-nuptial agreement about 5 years ago when I was expanding the business. Talia insisted on it, actually. Said she wanted to protect both our interests. Do you have a copy? In my safe at home. Why? Because postnups can work both ways. If she's been hiding assets or planning to defraud you in a divorce, that agreement might be your best protection. Bring me everything. The agreement, the financial records, anything else you've found. How long do we have? If she's planning to file, probably not long. The fact that she's been preparing for months suggests she's close to making her move. We need to be ready first. I spent the rest of the morning organizing documents and making copies. Everything in triplicate. One set for Tom, one for my records, one for safekeeping. If Talia wanted to play games with paperwork, I'd show her what real preparation looked like. Around noon, Beth knocked on my office door. Jordan, there's someone here to see you. Says she's a friend of your wife's. Renee Martinez stood in my lobby like she owned the place. 42 years old, 3 divorces under her belt, and the kind of confidence that came from taking half of everything 3 different men had worked to build. Jordan, what a surprise running into you here. It's my office, Renee. Not much of a surprise. Right, of course. She laughed like I'd said something funny. I was just in the neighborhood and thought I'd stop by. Talia's told me so much about your little business. Little business? Right. What can I do for you? Oh, nothing really. I just wanted to chat. Woman to woman. Well, woman to man, I guess. Another laugh. Talia's been going through a tough time lately. I'm sure you've noticed. Have I? The stress, the uncertainty. It's hard when someone feels trapped in a situation that's not working for them anymore. I leaned back in my chair and studied her. Renee had perfected the art of saying terrible things while smiling sweetly. It was a talent that had served her well in 3 divorce proceedings. Trapped how? Oh, when someone's grown beyond their circumstances, when they need room to spread their wings and explore new possibilities. New possibilities like secret hotel rooms and mysterious real estate meetings. Her smile faltered for just a second. I'm not sure what you mean. I think you know exactly what I mean. The question is, how deep are you in this? Are you just giving advice, or are you actively helping her hide assets? Jordan, I think you're misunderstanding. Am I? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you're helping my wife commit fraud. And if that's the case, you might want to think about whether your loyalty to Talia is worth potential criminal charges. She stood up abruptly. I don't have to listen to this. No, you don't. But you might want to think about this conversation when Talia's plan falls apart. Because it will fall apart, Renee. And when it does, you don't want to be standing too close. After she left, I called Tom Bradley again. The friend just paid me a visit. Renee Martinez. She's definitely involved in whatever Talia's planning. Good to know. How's that document search coming? Almost done. I should have everything to you by tomorrow morning. Excellent. One more thing. Do you have access to a good private investigator? We might need professional documentation of your wife's activities. I'll find one. And Jordan? Don't confront her directly until we have everything in place. Let her think she's still in control. That evening, I came home to find Talia in the kitchen, cooking dinner. Actually cooking, not just reheating something expensive from the gourmet market. She was wearing a dress I hadn't seen before, probably one of the new ones from her shopping spree. You're home early, she said without turning around. Finished up at the office, it smells good. Your favorite. Chicken parmesan? It was my favorite back when we were dating. She hadn't made it in probably 10 years. What's the occasion? Can't a wife cook for her husband without there being an occasion? I sat down at the kitchen island and watched her work. She was trying too hard, humming softly, moving with exaggerated grace, playing the part of the devoted wife. How were your client meetings today? Good, or really good actually. I might have landed a big project. Corporate offices downtown. That's great. Which company? Oh, you wouldn't know them. Small firm, but they have excellent taste. Another lie. I was starting to lose count. We ate dinner making small talk about nothing important. She asked about my day, I asked about hers. We both pretended this was normal. Just another evening in the life of a happily married couple. After dinner, she suggested we watch a movie together. Something we hadn't done in months. We settled on the couch, and she actually cuddled up next to me like she used to. Jordan, she said during a quiet moment in the film, I want you to know that no matter what happens, I do love you. You're a good man. What's going to happen? Nothing. I want you to know that. I looked down at her, and this woman I'd been married to for 18 years, and felt nothing but sadness, not anger anymore. That had burned out over the past few days. Just sadness for what we'd lost and what we'd never really had. I love you too, Talia. It wasn't entirely a lie. I loved the woman she used to be, before the money and the status and the friends like Renee had turned her into someone I barely recognized. That night, after she fell asleep, I went down to my home office and retrieved the post-nuptial agreement from my safe. I read through it carefully, paying attention to clauses I'd barely glanced at 5 years ago. What I found made me smile for the first time in days. Talia had insisted on the agreement to protect her interests, but she'd been so focused on what she might gain that she'd overlooked what she might lose. The document included very specific language about asset division in cases involving adultery or financial fraud. She'd written her own downfall and asked me to sign it. Tomorrow I'd take everything to Tom Bradley and let him work his magic. Tonight I'd sleep better than I had in weeks. Talia thought she was about to cash out and start fresh with her real estate friend. She had no idea that she was about to lose everything. The best part? It would all be completely legal. 3 days later, I had everything ready. Tom Bradley had reviewed all the documents. The private investigator had provided photographic evidence of Talia's hotel visits and restaurant meetings with Derek Vaughn. That was his name, the real estate prince. And I'd secured all my business assets in a way that would protect them from any divorce settlement. The post-nuptial agreement was even better than Tom had initially thought. Talia had been so eager to protect herself from any future business debts that she'd included language that would strip her of any claim to marital assets if she was found to be hiding money or engaging in adultery. She'd literally signed away her right to half of everything we'd built. I chose a Thursday morning for the revelation. Talia had been out late the night before. Another client dinner that I knew was really another romantic evening with Derek. She came home after midnight, slipped into bed thinking I was asleep, and spent 10 minutes texting someone before finally putting her phone away. I woke up early and went through my usual routine. Shower, coffee, check emails. Normal morning activities for a man whose life was about to change forever. Talia came downstairs at 8:30, already dressed for another day of deception. She looked beautiful. She always looked beautiful. But there was something different about her now. A glow that came from excitement, from the thrill of having a secret. "Morning," she said, pouring coffee. "Morning, sleep well." "Fine." She was checking her phone again. Always checking her phone. I have another busy day. 3 meetings, then dinner with a potential client. Derek Vaughn? The coffee mug slipped from her hand and shattered on the kitchen floor. Hot coffee splashed across the expensive tiles, creating a pattern that looked almost artistic. "What did you say?" "Derek Vaughn, real estate broker, drives a silver BMW, has an office on 5th Street. The man you've been having dinner with twice a week for the past 8 months." She stood frozen, staring down at the broken mug and the spreading coffee stain. I could see her mind racing, trying to figure out how much I knew, how much I could prove. "I don't know what you're talking about. Don't you?" I walked to the kitchen table and laid out a manila folder. "Because I have receipts, Talia. Literally." I opened the folder and spread the contents across the table, like a poker player revealing a royal flush. Hotel receipts, restaurant bills, photographs of her and Derek holding hands outside the Meridian. Credit card statements showing purchases she'd never mentioned. Bank records showing cash withdrawals that didn't match any expenses I could identify. "You've been planning this for months," I continued. "The secret accounts, the storage unit, the cozy meetings with your real estate friend. You've been preparing to divorce me while pretending everything was fine." She finally looked up from the mess on the floor. Her face had gone pale, but her eyes were defiant. "So what if I have? You said it yourself. We both know this marriage is over. I'm just being practical." "Practical." I laughed, and it came out harder than I intended. "Is that what you call fraud? Practical? It's not fraud. It's protecting myself." "From what? From me? When have I ever given you reason to think I wouldn't be fair in a divorce?" "Fair?" Her voice went up an octave. "You think keeping me trapped in this suburban prison is fair? You think making me beg for money to buy decent clothes is fair?" "Beg for money?" "Talia, you spend more on clothes in a month than most people make in a year. With your permission. Always with your permission. Everything has to go through you. Everything has to be approved by the almighty Jordan and his precious budget. We have a budget because that's how responsible adults manage money. And you've never had to ask permission for anything reasonable." "Reasonable according to who? You? You think a $200 dinner is unreasonable? You think a weekend spa trip is frivolous? You think everything I want is too expensive or too extravagant or too something?" I stared at her, genuinely confused. "When have I ever said no to something you really wanted? You don't say no. You just make me feel guilty for wanting it. You give me that look, that disappointed expression like I'm some kind of spoiled child asking for candy. Maybe because sometimes you act like a spoiled child asking for candy." The words hung in the air between us. I immediately regretted them, not because they weren't true, but because they were cruel. And despite everything, I didn't want to be cruel. There it is, she said quietly. Your true feelings about me. Finally. Talia, no, don't. Don't try to take it back. She was crying now, but they were angry tears. At least you're being honest for once. You want honesty? Fine. You're right. This marriage is over. It's been over for years. But instead of talking to me about it, instead of trying to work things out or even just asking for a divorce like an adult, you decided to sneak around and lie and steal. I haven't stolen anything. Haven't you? I pulled out another set of documents. 3 credit cards in your name that I didn't know about. A storage unit rental that's been charging our joint account for 6 months. Cash withdrawals totaling over $15,000 that you can't account for. That money was for what? Your escape fund? Money to help you start your new life with Derek? She wiped her eyes and straightened her shoulders. Yes, so what? I have a right to protect myself. Not with money you stole from our joint accounts. I didn't steal it. It's my money, too. Actually, it's not. I pulled out the final document, the postnuptial agreement she'd signed 5 years ago. Remember this? The agreement you insisted on? The one that protects both our interests? I watched her face as she recognized the document. Watched the defiance slowly turn to uncertainty. What about it? Read Section 7, the part about asset division in cases involving adultery or financial fraud. She grabbed the papers and scanned through them. I saw the exact moment when she understood what she'd done to herself. Her face went from pale to gray. This can't be legal. It's completely legal. You signed it. I signed it. It was witnessed and notarized. And according to this agreement, if either party engages in adultery or attempts to hide marital assets in preparation for divorce, they forfeit their claim to any property acquired during the marriage. You can't prove adultery. I pulled out the photographs. Talia and Derek kissing outside the Meridian. Talia and Derek holding hands at an expensive restaurant. Talia and Derek entering his apartment building together at 11 o'clock on a Tuesday night. Can't I? She stared at the photos for a long time. When she finally looked up, the tears were gone, replaced by something harder. You bastard. You've been spying on me. I've been protecting myself, just like you were. This is different. This is cruel. Is it? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like justice. She stood up abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. I'm not going to let you do this to me. You're not going to let me? Talia, you did this to yourself. Every choice, every lie, every secret meeting, that was all you. I'll fight this. I'll get a lawyer, You'll what? Contest an agreement you signed voluntarily? Try to explain why you've been hiding money and having an affair? Good luck with that. She opened her mouth to say something else, then closed it. For the first time since I'd known her, Talia was speechless. Here's what's going to happen, I continued. I'm filing for divorce this afternoon. Based on the evidence I have and the agreement you signed, you'll be entitled to whatever personal belongings you can prove you owned before our marriage, plus whatever you've managed to hide in your secret accounts. Everything else, the house, my business, our joint savings, stays with me. You can't do this. I can, and I am. She looked around the kitchen, our kitchen with its expensive appliances and designer finishes, like she was seeing it for the first time, or the last time. Where am I supposed to go? I'm sure Derek has room for you, or there's always Renee's couch. Jordan, please, we can work this out. We can go to counseling, we can... No. The word came out harder than I intended. We can't. This isn't a rough patch, Talia. This isn't something we can fix with therapy and good intentions. You made a choice to betray me, to lie to me, to steal from me. And now you have to live with the consequences. She stood there for another minute, looking lost and small in her expensive dress. Then, she straightened her shoulders and walked out of the kitchen. I heard her footsteps on the stairs, heard her moving around in our bedroom, heard dresser drawers opening and closing. 20 minutes later, she came back downstairs with 2 suitcases and her purse. She stopped in the kitchen doorway and looked at me one last time. I hope you're happy, she said. I'm not happy, but I'm not miserable anymore either. This isn't over. Yes, it is. She walked to the front door, then turned back. You know what the funny thing is? I really did love you once, before you became so small. I know, and I loved you too. Before you became someone I didn't recognize. She left without another word. I heard her car start, heard her drive away, and then the house was quiet. I sat in my kitchen for a long time, surrounded by the evidence of my wife's betrayal and the wreckage of our marriage. The coffee stain was still spreading across the floor, dark and ugly against the expensive tiles. I should probably clean that up, I thought. After all, cleaning up messes was what I did for a living. But first, I had a phone call to make. Tom Bradley was waiting to hear from me, and we had papers to file. The divorce moved through the courts faster than I'd expected. Tom Bradley had been right about the post-nuptial agreement. It was airtight. Talia hired a lawyer, an expensive one from what I heard, but there wasn't much he could do. She'd signed away her rights in black and white, and the evidence of her adultery and financial deception was overwhelming. The hardest part wasn't the legal proceedings. It was dealing with the aftermath in our social circle. Talia had gotten to most of our mutual friends first, spinning a story about how I'd been controlling and financially abusive, how she'd been forced to hide money just to survive. Some people believed her. The ones who'd always seen me as the boring husband holding back their glamorous friend, but others asked questions, wanted to see proof, and when the real story came out, the tide turned quickly. Renee tried to organize a support group for Talia, painting her as a victim of my calculated cruelty. But when word got around about the secret accounts and the affair, even some of Talia's closest friends started keeping their distance. Derek Vaughn disappeared from the picture entirely. Apparently, a real estate broker couldn't afford to be associated with a messy divorce scandal. Talia called me 3 weeks after she'd moved out, crying and begging me to reconsider. "He won't even return my calls," she sobbed into the phone. "He said the situation was too complicated." I'm sorry to hear that. Are you? Are you really sorry? Or are you happy that I'm miserable? I thought about that question for a moment. Was I happy that she was suffering? The honest answer was complicated. I'm sorry that it turned out this way. I'm sorry we couldn't figure out how to be happy together. But I'm not sorry that actions have consequences. You're destroying my life. You destroyed your own life, Talia. I'm just refusing to let you destroy mine too. She hung up on me. It was the last time we spoke directly. The final divorce decree was signed on a cold Tuesday in November. I walked out of the courthouse feeling lighter than I had in years. Not happy exactly. There was too much sadness mixed in for that, but free. Tom Bradley walked me to my car. "How are you holding up?" "Better than expected. It feels strange being single again after 18 years. "Any regrets?" I considered the question. "About the marriage ending? Yes. About how I handled